Good evening, everybody. Thanks a lot for joining us tonight for our UCAN talk show. Over the next 45 minutes to an hour, we're going to be talking a lot about how to get the most out of UCAN in a variety of different situations. A lot of you guys submitted some great questions leading up to this talk show tonight, so we will definitely be answering those, and we are going to have a whole lot of fun along the way. I'm Varun Shriram, joined as always by my partner in crime, registered dietitian, director of nutrition for Generation UCAN, Seth Bronheim. Seth, what is happening tonight?
I'm doing awesome, Varun. I am doing awesome.
Fantastic. Looking forward to chatting nutrition with you and those that are joining us live tonight. And for those of you that have joined us on some of these webinars, talk shows in the past, you might have a little bit of an idea of how it goes, but today we want to make this really interactive. So we want to chat with you live. If you have a computer microphone, if you'd like us to ask us a question live, we want to bring you on so we can talk to you. So I will try to give you a heads up via the chat on the GoToWebinar if I'm planning to bring you on, just so you know. For some of you, I might just see that you have a question and call you up by name and see if I can't bring you on. So stay tuned. We're going to have fun. We're going to hopefully talk to a lot of people and get a lot of questions answered. But before we do that, let's take just about the first 10 or 15 minutes here to go through a brief and basic overview, of the science behind UCAN and also the application behind UCAN. So starting out at a very fundamental level, UCAN and the superstarch carbohydrate in UCAN is a carbohydrate that keeps your blood sugar very steady. And keeping your blood sugar steady is so paramount, so important to so many functions of the body. So many things we rely on just work better when blood sugar's steady. Seth, putting your dietitian hat on, what's the importance of keeping your blood sugar stable, and who needs to worry about doing this?
So in reality, everyone, um, it's really something that's not talked about. And people talk about keeping their energy up, sustained energy, rapid energy. People talk about recovery and why they need protein or how to recover faster and replenish quicker. But this concept, this is what our job is, and what UCAN's mission is to bring blood sugar management to the forefront in running, in CrossFit, in just health in general. And you look at this graph here, and the fact is that majority of carbohydrates, even ones that we think are healthy, like your classic wheat bread, the bagel, cereal, the enzymes in your intestines break them down too quickly. They raise your blood sugar up, and your body basically says, hey, I got all this sugar in my blood. I don't need this amount of sugar at once. And you start storing it away, and there's hormones in your body that signal the body to get rid of the sugar quickly. And then that's what leads to the inevitable crash, because you don't need all that sugar at once. And sugar, I mean, is what's getting broken down from your breads, your rices, your energy bars, and that's what leads to overeating too. I mean, so many times there's new research showing that really, even if you've enough energy in your bloodstream, because let's say you had a full bagel, I was just talking to someone who said they had a bagel at 8 a.m. They'd have another bagel at 9:30 a.m. And this is just during the workday, because they were kind of their blood sugar was dropping. We eat so much more because we're overeating to compensate for blood sugar drops. And keeping your blood sugar steady prevents so many issues that occur with the classic highs and lows and disease-causing carbohydrates of the day.
And with all this, kind of this hopefully re-education and on the importance of blood sugar management, you see this manifest itself so much when people are thinking in terms of calories, right? And especially when they're thinking in terms of calories in the context of exercise. So many times folks dwell on and say, I need X number of calories per hour, and they think they need so many calories to maintain their energy. But kind of the missing piece here is that they're consuming so many calories in reality to stabilize their blood sugar. Because when you have these sugar-based fuels, these sugar-based sports nutrition products, and you constantly have these ups and downs, then it's incumbent on you to keep reloading the body with calories in order to get that spike again and get your blood sugar back up.
Right.
But if you're able to manage your blood sugar, then we really shift the focus away from calories, and we really put the focus where it should be, which is on the maintenance and the management of stable and steady blood sugar.
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking to a researcher at Yale, and she was talking about how when you're exercising, how you have the stored fuel in your body there for you. She pointed to her legs because everybody's got enough fuel in your legs, the glycogen in your legs, to fuel your running. But fatigue, and the reason people an hour into a workout feel low energy, it's not. People always think, oh, it's my glycogen must be low. It's not your glycogen being low. It's that your blood sugar and the energy available to your brain is actually low. Um, and that's why people start that roller coaster, whether it's they're a runner, they start the roller coaster of gels. Um, but it's the main reason why so many folks, they go out for an hour run, they have a half a banana before. It's just not adequate to keep your blood sugar steady. Your blood sugar drops, and you're hungry afterward. And I think, the reason why so many people actually don't enjoy exercise, you talk about people that haven't, are just getting back into the routine, they maybe haven't worked out in 5 years. It's because their brains aren't happy when they exercise because they get low blood sugar. They burn through energy too quickly in the beginning because their blood sugar is not stable. Um, and their brains aren't happy because their muscle cells are using up all the energy that was supposed to be in their bloodstream. And I think it's all about the brain. The brain is not happy when people are exercising because their blood sugar is not steady, so not enjoying the exercise as much.
So, as we've talked about, steady blood sugar and the impact of these spikes and drops in your blood sugar, this leads us directly into a conversation about UCAN and really what makes UCAN unique. And with UCAN, the uniqueness comes from the origins of the carbohydrate. Nothing to do with sports, nothing to do with endurance, as many of you have come to know about UCAN, through those avenues. It actually was created originally for something far different. So, Seth, take us back to the origins of UCAN and why this superstarch carbohydrate in UCAN even came about.
So UCAN's, our carbohydrate, our company, our reason for being was to help a life-threatening disease. Our founder's son has life-threatening low blood sugar, life-threatening hypoglycemia. Um, he has a rare disease called glycogen storage disease. Before the 70s, these kids didn't survive infancy. Then, later in the 70s, they realized that plain cornstarch, the yellow boxes you find in the supermarket, they would have to be fed normal cornstarch 10 to 12 times per day, and that includes 2 or 3 nighttime feedings. And that's because cornstarch is fast acting, but it gave them livable levels of glucose. But the problem that happened was our founder's wife, she was setting multiple alarm clocks, afraid she would miss one of those nighttime feedings. So they went on a quest for the ideal carbohydrate, a longer lasting, slower releasing carbohydrate to sustain Jonah's blood sugar throughout the night. So for 8 years, they tried barleys, tapiocas, rices, and wheats. Well, what we call UCAN SuperStarch, Jonah roughly has a dose of around 3 packets before he goes to bed, or 3 scoops, and he sleeps all 8 hours. Him, his parents, they're all sleeping throughout the night. And if you met our founders, their only reason they put their time and money into the company was to help these young kids sleep throughout the night.
So it's superstarch set that you talked about. It came about for Jonah. I mean, what is it? It's not magic, right? So how does it work, and what is it?
So we start off with a specific type of non-GMO native corn. It kind of has properties of like a dietary fiber. And, heat breaks things down. So we have a 40-hour patented cooking method of just heat and water, no enzymes, no chemicals. But the heat and moisture process, basically takes the structure of the carbohydrate and it breaks it down a little bit, so it's able to be released slowly into your body instead of all at once into your bloodstream. There's no enzymes, there's no chemicals. It's the heat. It's people say, what is this? Just cornstarch? Because the thing about our product is that most people look at a nutrition product label and they think they know things. Our label doesn't tell you, the uniqueness of UCAN. It's not something you can read on a label. You can't just see, 25 grams of carb. You can't get that uniqueness, looking at a nutrition facts label. So again, it's non-GMO corn. It's cooked for 40 hours with just heat and water, no enzymes, no chemicals. But it's the way it's cooked that allows it to break down steadily over time, changing the structure of the carbohydrate instead of entering your bloodstream all at once. It's gluten-free. We test for less than 10 parts per million, and we can walk them through the science for it.
Absolutely. So with the with the SuperStarch, I think again to really illustrate, Jonah was previously as Seth was talking about Jonah with this life-threatening blood sugar disease, he was previously taking the regular cornstarch that you could find at the grocery store, and about 18 to 24 grams of the cornstarch every 90 minutes to 2 hours, and it was only able to sustain his blood sugar, and he was only able to break it down, to get about that 90 minutes to 2 hours of energy at a time. So that's really where superstarch differs, just from your regular cornstarch. It's that heat moisture process that it goes through, and it's really that slow and steady release over time that's maintaining your blood sugar. So we really wanted to see, our founders of the company wanted to see back around 2008, 2009, when the superstarch was developed for Jonah, what other application does this have? How would this help the general population? How would this help athletes? How would this help, runners, triathletes, people just going to the gym and working out? And really kind of the first line of research and testing on UCAN was looking at it and comparing it to maltodextrin. So if you flip around, you walk into your sports nutrition store, your running store, your triathlon store, you go to the nutrition wall, which I affectionately call the candy wall in a lot of cases, but you go over there and you flip around the ingredient labels, you're going to see this carbohydrate maltodextrin as the first ingredient in the majority of your energy, your fuel products. We're talking the Cliff products, Hammer products, Goo products, Power Bar products. Maltodextrin is really the quote unquote complex carbohydrate that most brands are using. So when you're choosing, between should I use this product or that product, you're really choosing between the same thing. You're just deciding what flavor do I like, what format do I like, what works better in my stomach. But at a very fundamental level, they're all giving you maltodextrin, which is more fast acting, meaning it delivers energy quickly, and they're working the same in your body. So what we wanted to do as a starting point was look at 25 grams of maltodextrin compared to 25 grams of superstarch. And we wanted to see what the difference was on blood sugar levels. So to take it back to what we were talking about at the beginning, steady blood sugar is steady energy. When you don't have the highs and lows, you don't feel the fluctuations in energy, you don't feel fatigue as quickly, you don't feel hungry as quickly. That's really the power and the impact of steady blood sugar. So, Seth, what are we looking at here on the screen?
So, I mean, to just piggyback off your point, Varun, I've tested my blood sugar over 3.5 hours, and I got a very similar red line. I was 93 milligrams per deciliter. I retested every half an hour, but 3.5 hours later, my blood sugar was 96 milligrams per deciliter, completely steady, and I never hovered above 100. So what you're seeing here is, I mean, that really showed me on my N=1 study how steady I was. And what you're seeing here is that this red line is our blood sugar curve. We're giving little bits of energy over time, really matching the rate your brain and your muscles need fuel. You don't need 40 grams of carbohydrate at once, whether it's maltodextrin, cereal, bread, sweet potato. You don't need it all at once. That's the whole reason why why your blood sugar comes down, is because your body says, hey, I don't need all this at once. Your brain, it only needs around 5 to 8 grams of carbohydrate per hour, outside of exercise. So we're giving you a very sustained release, and your brain's happy because you're getting a steady release of glucose at the rates you need it. And it's really the end point of UCAN. Some people call this a low glycemic carbohydrate. Just doesn't do it justice. It's the rate that UCAN enters your body over time to stabilize blood sugar for your brain, and that's really the uniqueness behind it. It's the way you'd want a carbohydrate to finally act in your body.
So if we take it back to the calorie analogy, which resonates with a lot of people, if we're talking 25 grams of maltodextrin versus 25 grams of superstarch, which is what we're looking at here on the screen, we're talking about 100 calories versus 100 calories. So really look at the impact of this. With the maltodextrin, 100 calories gives you that big spike, and within about 30 minutes, your blood sugar is dropping, and it's telling your body it's time to refuel, time to take in more calories. With UCAN, that same 100 calories or 25 grams of superstarch is not spiking you, but then the decline is very steady over time. And remember what Seth said right off the top. When you have that rapid drop in blood sugar, even if you're above baseline, your body still experiences that sugar crash. It still feels like, uh-oh, energy's lagging. I'm low. I need to take in more. So with UCAN, that same 100 calories is actually maintaining your blood sugar and your energy for about 90 minutes to 2 hours. So 2 to 3 times as long as the equivalent serving of maltodextrin. I think that right there can tell so many people why this is impactful, in terms of preventing GI issues during exercise, because you don't have to take in so much as you're training. For weight management, if you're simply not taking in as many calories and you're still able to maintain your energy when you work out, it stands to reason that you're going to have better body composition results, better weight loss results, if you're putting in the work with a fuel source that's going to maintain you on fewer calories rather than requiring you to take in so much just to maintain you. Let's get a little bit deeper, before we start to take questions into that fat burning weight management aspect of UCAN. Seth, what are we looking at over here? A little bit more science.
Right. So we did a study done at University of Oklahoma on trained athletes hooked up to metabolic carts and intravenous blood draws. And this was the most remarkable finding, is that we completely flatline a fat storage hormone called insulin. So we're a carb that doesn't store as fat. It's kind of like an oxymoron. You see here maltodextrin caused huge spikes in insulin, and that's because when you take in cereals, breads, pastas, your body says, you got all this carbohydrate in your blood, get it out of the bloodstream quickly, and the hormone that's telling your body to store carbs away, as fat or as glycogen in your body and store carbs away in general is insulin. We kept insulin levels very low. So we actually allow for the body to utilize fat as energy. And this is where you talk about calories per hour if you're a triathlete out there or you're a runner. We always think about calories as what we consume. But with now using UCAN, the fact is that you can actually burn your internal body fat calories, which you have way more of than you have stored carbohydrate calories. So we're like a dual fuel. You have the incoming carbohydrate keeping your brain and your body happy, but at the same time, your muscle cells can use fat as a fuel, sustaining your energy even further, which is why, I remember, you mentioned Matt Bach, for example. He did Ironman Maryland on 94 calories per hour, whereas most triathletes are looking to do at least 400 calories per hour.
That's right. And so UCAN is really, from an endurance standpoint, which, I know we got a ton of endurance related questions in here. We'll certainly get to those. UCAN's really shifting the paradigm for long distance training in terms of what you actually need to take in over the course of a long event. So, that's one application, kind of the sports nutrition application of UCAN. But what's really interesting with UCAN is, we're now shifting, from that sports and fitness focus to a pre-diabetes and health focus as well. So UCAN, the same SuperStarch, isn't just relevant for those of you getting out there and training hard and looking for a fuel for your exercise. It's really actually very effective as an everyday healthier form of carbohydrate. So Seth, maybe just at a top line level, what is some of this new research with SuperStarch that we're undertaking?
So, UCAN, we partnered with a medical foods company, Metagenics, and our carbohydrate is now used in a product they have called Ultra Glucose Control. Contains around 15 grams of UCAN SuperStarch along with 15 grams of pea protein, some fat and fiber. And there's a study done that was published in the Journal of Parental and Enteral Nutrition. It was done on people with an average median age of 55 and a half years old. Their BMI was 38, so they were at that cusp of overweight. Their fasting blood sugar level was 102.4 milligrams per deciliter. Above 100 is usually considered prediabetes. And a measure of 3-month diabetes, HbA1c, their hemoglobin A1c was 5.72%, and above 5.5% is a risk of prediabetes. So, if you look at this was done in 17 pre-diabetic women and 7 pre-diabetic men. And again, it's very hard doing research in women. So remember, my blood sugar rise was 7 milligrams per deciliter. In the first hour, I went from 93 milligrams per deciliter to 100 milligrams per deciliter. Here, you see a very small rise with the Ultra Glucose Control, the product containing Generation UCAN SuperStarch, but a huge spike in your oatmeal. And with oatmeal, you don't even stabilize for 30 minutes. And what you feel, again, going back to that concept of even if you have adequate energy in your bloodstream because you've had a bagel or you've had cereal, when your blood sugar starts to drop from that adequate amount, you start feeling that decline. You start feeling hungry again and hypoglycemic symptoms, and your brain gets that kind of I need to eat again feeling. So UCAN, again, with the red line, stays very steady. I was, in terms of pre-diabetes, we have a carbohydrate that really does two things. We curb hunger in the brain because your blood sugar doesn't drop, so your brain doesn't go, hey, sugar's low, time to eat again. We're a carbohydrate that keeps insulin low. So we're also a carbohydrate that doesn't store as fat. And I think that's a big thing. When the word carbohydrate, outside of the endurance world is kind of scary for some folks, especially when they're trying to lose weight. I mean, from some, just from anecdotal, evidence from some registered dietitians, Michelle Walker, she's a registered dietitian at a Lifetime Fitness facility out in Roseville, California. She told me she had a client use UCAN twice per day. The client's fasting blood sugar was 309 milligrams per deciliter. And just after 1 week using UCAN twice per day, the blood sugar went down to 216 milligrams per deciliter. Another dietitian told me she had a client with a fasting blood sugar of 110 milligrams per deciliter, that pre-diabetic risk. And she had the client swap out, the chips at lunch and the bread at lunch for a scoop of UCAN, and the potato or the pasta at dinner for a scoop of UCAN. And this client's blood sugar over 2 months went down to 88 milligrams per deciliter. So again, we are a healthier form of carbohydrate that doesn't have that impact on insulin. And what I think is pretty remarkable is that there are actual drugs out there, diabetic drugs, and the whole point of them is to block carbohydrate absorption, slow down carbohydrate absorption. I mean, one of our favorite, things is that, you don't want people to have to take medications. One of my favorite mentors and, just a great UCAN ambassador, Dr. Tom Villela at the Nutrition Treatment Center, his goal is to get off people from all these drugs and all these medications. And all these medications are trying to do what our carbohydrate does by itself. We break down slowly over time and sustain you at the right rate instead of needing all these medications to do it for you, and that have serious health connotations and might not even be that effective.
And what's interesting, Seth, is right. I think it's apparent, and we've seen time and time again that replacing a lot of these sugar-based fuel sources, in the sports nutrition world with UCAN is just a much healthier and much better choice, for a lot of people that are in running, triathlon, or in the gym, at trying to achieve body composition and weight loss, and not trying to pack on all these unnecessary calories. But what's so fascinating to me about this graph is oatmeal, right? Is something that so many people perceive as a good way to start the day, kind of as an energy sustaining form of carbohydrate. And this really puts UCAN for a lot of people in a different context. We are that same and a more effective, stabilizing carbohydrate or energy sustaining food than something that's so common like oatmeal. So if you use UCAN as the carbohydrate portion of your breakfast, and mix it with protein powder and some healthy fats, if you have our vanilla cream UCAN with unsweetened almond milk, with peanut butter, and with some avocado, you're really going to achieve a very similar effect to this red line that you're seeing here. Just that nice, steady, sustained energy, and so that is a great application. For a lot of people with UCAN, getting them to think about it as something different than just a long distance endurance fuel. This should really be something that you can add to your daily diet when you're looking to keep your blood sugar and your energy steady for a long period of time.
Right? And it's that constant. Most people, we were just talking to that Yale researcher again, and she was telling me that lunch is the most evil meal of the day. She said, because if you make the wrong decision at lunch, you suffer that 2, 3, 4 o'clock feeling. If you want to get, you're running at the end of the day, you've got that energy lag depending on what you ate. And she says, I could have UCAN at lunch, and I wouldn't even think about food for hours. And I think the point here is that with UCAN, your blood sugar's not dropping, so your brain's not going, hey, sugar's low, time to eat again. It's much more of this feeling of I could eat, but I don't have to. So you're eating based on the hunger in your stomach, not that stress-based hunger in your brain. So everybody who's so busy during the day, if you've got back-to-back meetings, if you're a teacher, doctor, nurse, surgeon, I mean, you could take 2 scoops of vanilla cream UCAN or a packet, and that could sustain you, for a good couple hours. I mean, I'm a hungry guy, and I know that, UCAN can last me, 4 hours, especially, when we're doing expos or you're traveling. I had just a packet of UCAN at 2 p.m. when I was traveling, and I was steady until 6 o'clock, and then even then it was just I was ready to eat because I was hungry in the stomach, but not hungry in the brain.
So, I hope the first half of this talk show today really wanted to convey the importance of keeping your blood sugar stable, and point to the fact that there's really nothing else that helps you maintain that steady blood sugar like the UCAN SuperStarch. So, with that, we want to start chatting with you folks and taking some questions. So, I'm going to see if I can bring on. Hopefully, I'm not surprising him too much, but Bruce had a great question. He's a running coach out of Michigan. So, let me see if I can bring on Bruce to chat live with us. Bruce, are you there?
Yes.
How you doing tonight, Bruce? Appreciate you joining us. And you typed a great question in the chat, so I wanted to hear it from you yourself. Go ahead.
Well, one of the questions that I have is, my runners say, "Oh, I took some UCAN before I ran today," or "What should I take it on the run?" Carry a little canister, and I say, "Well, what are you doing during the week?" And some of them aren't doing anything, and I just wanted to kind of give them a quick uh, a quick way to really um, incorporate it into the daily routine, like the scoops that you're talking about. In lieu of at lunchtime and that kind of thing. That is the energy mix, correct?
Right. So I'll chime in here, Varun.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so our UCAN fuel and our UCAN with protein, they both have a similar amount of the superstarch, the unique carbohydrate. The protein enhanced version in a scoop roughly has 8 grams of protein, and a packet has roughly 12 to 13 grams of protein. Um, in general, like if you were, that's the main difference is that one has protein, one doesn't, and the protein enhanced. Some runners, if they can tolerate protein before, some like that the added protein curbs hunger in the stomach too. So especially if you're running in the morning, from an energy standpoint, it's a very similar type of energy. It's just the added protein benefit, if that person's looking to curb hunger or get more protein in their diet before they run. Um, So is your question also about how to implement this during for shorter runs during the week maybe?
Well, I guess what I'm having them do now is have the energy before the runs and maybe during the runs if it's a longer type run, and then having the protein after the run.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's an ideal protocol, because again you're keeping your blood sugar before the run, during the run, and after the run. And I think even for those shorter runs that might be less than that 4 to 5 mile run, you don't necessarily need extra fuel for that run,
Right.
but you have to keep your blood sugar steady. And the way I talk about this is I see people go for a 4 mile run and afterward they're slamming down 2 energy bars because they're so ravenous. And that means that during the run they had low blood sugar.
Right.
So so especially as you up the intensity, the tempo, even if you're going for a 40-minute run, you have to keep your blood sugar steady. So they would do a scoop before that shorter run, have it 30 minutes before, and some people have gravitated who just aren't a powder person. They keep a box of our UCAN snack bars. There's 10 grams of the super starch in there, so a slightly smaller dose that also can be beneficial for a shorter run that has some added healthy fat and protein to curb hunger in the stomach, for that 40-minute run too.
Okay. Okay.
Where are you from in Michigan?
The Detroit area.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, we're one of the Mike Anderson who won the Detroit Marathon.
Oh yeah, I
He
know him. Yeah,
he
great
was
guy.
using UCAN.
That's fantastic. Well, Bruce, thanks a lot for the question. Hope we answered it. This chart that you see on the screen as well actually will, talk to some of what Bruce was asking, just in terms of a protocol around UCAN. And I do, see a couple other questions related to this. So while we're on the topic, Jeffrey mentioned that when he tried a sample of UCAN, he was really hungry, within about 30 minutes. And so he wasn't sure about, the fullness effect of it. So Jeffrey, for you specifically, hopefully, as we were talking about the different products that you can use, really with the UCAN fuel versus the UCAN with protein, very similar from an energy standpoint, going to keep your blood sugar steady. in a very similar manner. So if you are finding that you get hungrier with UCAN, then having the UCAN with protein prior to your workout, really protein is what curbs that hunger. Protein and fat are what's going to curb that hunger in the stomach. So either the UCAN with protein or the UCAN snack bar is probably what you're going to want in those situations where you're going into a workout and you start to feel hungry. And we had Suzanne asking a question, about is there a different type of UCAN for before and for after a workout? Suzanne, that's really the beauty of this SuperStarch. It's a carbohydrate that's applicable in virtually every situation because you really want to manage your blood sugar in every situation. So the UCAN fuel, which is the fruit flavored UCAN with the carbohydrate and electrolytes, I mean that is ideal prior to a workout, and most people are using that primarily pre and during longer workouts. But the UCAN with protein, it's really up to you. Like we just talked about with Jeffrey, if you're somebody that finds that you're going into a workout a little bit hungry, or if you tend to get hungry during longer workouts, you can absolutely use the UCAN with protein as your pre-workout fuel. We have ultra runners and triathletes even using it, on the bike or during their runs if they prefer to get a lot of their calories in liquid form, because again, during a long workout, that protein is going to help curb that stomach hunger. And then you can absolutely use it after a workout. The UCAN with protein, it's really a way to recover without the sugar. Instead of having something like chocolate milk with 25 grams of sugar, well, if you have a body composition goal in mind, what's going to happen? You're going to spike your glucose. You're going to get a rise in that hormone insulin that we were talking about, and your body's going to go back into that sugar burning mode. Burn sugar, don't burn fat. With UCAN, with the SuperStarch, because it keeps your blood sugar steady post workout and it doesn't cause a rise in that fat storage hormone insulin, you're getting the protein for your muscles, for muscle recovery to rebuild your muscle. But then you're getting a sustained energy source that's just going to keep your blood sugar nice and even and allow you to continue burning fat in the post-workout period. And what's really interesting, we keep talking about her because she's really a brilliant woman, but this the woman, Dr. Kathy Eckel from Yale University, we were doing a webinar with her on women's health, a month or two ago, and she was talking about how women in particular are so sensitive to sugar spikes in terms of its impact on fat burning after a workout. So, she would always say it's an unfortunate disadvantage that a woman has compared to a man. But if you're ingesting something, pasta, rice, chocolate milk, something fast acting post workout, you're really, really throwing off that ability to keep burning fat in the post workout period. So if you have that body composition goal in mind, really using the UCAN with protein post workout is going to help you from a recovery standpoint, but it's really going to help you from that aspect of continuing to burn fat for fuel after a workout.
Yeah, and Varun, I should just mention, if you're someone who's a runner or a triathlete and you've been using maltodextrin or gels, or you eat, a bagel very close to having UCAN, or you don't eat enough protein with your meals, there's an adaptation with UCAN as you're swapping out some of those carbohydrates. You might need some time to adapt because you're so used to that spike in blood sugar, and that's how you've gotten energy for so many years. It might take some time just to for your body to recognize that this is what your body's supposed to be like, not having spikes in blood sugar every hour or so when you're exercising.
So let's see. Let's see if we can bring somebody else on. We've got Matt who has a question specific to triathlon. Let me see if I can get Matt here on the line with us. Matt, are you there with us?
I am, yeah.
How
Hey,
you
how you
doing
doing?
tonight, Matt? Thanks a lot for joining us. Go ahead.
Hey, yeah, I just had a question with regards to long course triathlon and switching to UCAN away from the on course fuel that might be there. How do you advise carrying that with you as an athlete? Do you advise sort of mixing it into a paste that you can dilute and add to the water that's available on the aid stations, or what's been the best results?
Absolutely. So I think one of the things, first of all, that we tell folks to think of, and it seems like Matt, you've got this clear in your mind, but for anything long course, you want to think of UCAN as your fuel, not your hydration. So even though it's something that you mix with water, and oftentimes people are making it into a drink, it's really not a substitute for hydration. So one of the things a lot of triathletes will do is, especially on the bike, they'll concentrate several servings of UCAN pre-mixed in one bottle. So we use the example of Matt Bach. He's a amateur triathlete, but he was the winner at Ironman Maryland, 8:51:19 iron. He just won the finished as the first amateur at the Eagleman 70.3 a couple weeks ago. He was sixth overall. Again, about a 4:11 70.3 on a really hot day. And what Matt really does is for the 70.3 specifically, he had 3 scoops of the UCAN in his bike bottle, all mixed into one bottle. And then he had his electrolytes, his hydration separate. And then roughly every, 60 to 75 minutes, he was taking a large swig out of that bottle, essentially taking a serving down at once. And then in between those servings, he was just sipping on his hydration. So that's the approach that a lot of triathletes have found successful with UCAN, is to really concentrate whatever that nutrition they need for the duration of the bike is into one bottle. And then, at set intervals, having whatever portion, whether it's a third of that bottle or a quarter of that bottle, just having, that over a relatively short period of time. And then on the run, you can absolutely, depending on the distance of the triathlon, what people try to do is they try to time their last dose of UCAN as close to when they get off the bike as possible. So the logic there is if I have the UCAN, very close to the time I get off the bike, then it's going to sustain me for a good portion of the run. Now, if it's a 70.3, for a lot of people, that's really all they need. If it's a full Ironman, then they might do what you said off the top. They might carry a flask with them, and 75 minutes, 90 minutes into the run, they're taking down a shot of UCAN, halfway through to carry them through the second half of that run.
Okay, that's great to hear, because it's nice to consider doing a long course race without constantly every 15, 20 minutes gulping down sugary, gloopy stuff. Fueling.
Absolutely, Matt. And then I'll add one more thing, and Seth, you can talk about this because we do have questions coming in on this specific topic. When we're talking about long course endurance types of events, what mixes well with UCAN? What else can people have? And how should they think about, I think starting there, Seth, how should people think about what they're mixing with UCAN? And then what are some specific things you suggest?
I think the first thing is, and I know this is a little repetitive, but it's to make sure you're using UCAN when you're training. Because if you treat this like a race day only product, you're not going to get the benefits, that you could get really optimally if you were to use this 4 months before you started exercising, in getting ready for your race. But, if you want to have a few gels along the way because you're used to that, or you think it's insurance, you could. That's okay. It's not the end of the world. But ideally, you would use a scoop of UCAN, every hour or so. The higher the intensity, usually the more frequently you'll need it in the beginning, every hour or so. And I think now that you'll sip on our UCAN Hydrate during to get your electrolytes. And again, our UCAN Hydrate has a ratio of electrolytes that matches what you lose when you sweat. It has more magnesium than most products. A lot of products just say that that there's only a small amount of magnesium lost in sweat, so then they replace a small amount of magnesium. But we have 50 milligrams of magnesium to really help with energy production, which is going to help you deeper into your training and racing. So it's the UCAN Hydrate. But I'd say that now that we have the UCAN snack bars, I think that's what's key to have when you're on the bike, when you're getting a little hungry. That's going to keep your blood sugar steady, curb hunger in the brain, and curb hunger in the stomach. So I think that, if someone wants to bring along some certain, almond butter packets, small amounts of dried fruit, just things that aren't going to raise their blood sugar a ton, and having small amounts, that's okay. And they got to experiment. You got to experiment on your own. I know people that mix a scoop of UCAN and some coconut oil and put it in a gel flask, so they get the benefits of the coconut oil and the UCAN together. I think you just got to experiment a little bit. And that's what the training can do. You can, you're going out for a 3-hour ride followed by a 20-minute run. You could figure out what's going to work well that can carry over to the race.
Thanks a lot for the question, Matt. Hope that helped you out. Appreciate you coming on. Seth, we have a few questions from folks, and we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but asking how UCAN is different, and the SuperStarch, I guess, specifically different than something like high maize, something like waxy maize. What makes the SuperStarch different?
Our starting ingredient is non-GMO corn. It's a very specific type of non-GMO corn, and it starts off in a resistant starch form that's not absorbed. And it's really our patented cooking method that has the exact heat and moisture method. So, as we said, heat breaks things down. That breaks apart the carbohydrates so it absorbs steadily into your bloodstream. So it's the cooking method that completely changes the crystalline structure of the carbohydrate. Waxy maize, there's lots of different forms. Many can raise your blood sugar. But it's that we do two things. We keep your blood sugar steady, but it's also that we keep your insulin low, allowing for fat utilization that we showed in our trials at University of Oklahoma. So that's really how this is different. The only similarity that's slight is that our starting ingredient is non-GMO corn. Everything changes after the cooking process. And that's why a lot of folks who hate carbohydrates, they like our carbohydrate in that we don't spike blood sugar and we don't spike insulin. We keep it sustained. And that's really the main difference. So the advantages of UCAN over a waxy maize is that it lasts you longer from a blood sugar standpoint. It's the way it releases over time steadily. Some things might be lower glycemic, but they don't last you as long. And that's what's key about UCAN is that it keeps you sustained and your blood sugar steady. It's the end point with UCAN. When you look at that red line and you see how UCAN is, 3.5 hours later, you're still steady. My blood sugar still steady at 96 milligrams per deciliter. After starting off 3.5 hours earlier at 93 milligrams per deciliter, that's the main difference.
We've got a question from Rob about UCAN for a low-carb ketogenic diet. Let me see if I can bring Rob on the line to chat with us. Rob, are you there with us?
Yeah, that's me.
Hey, Rob, how you doing? Thanks a lot for joining us. Thanks for your question. Go ahead.
Hi, I've been experimenting with the ketogenic diet, trying to go low carb and get into that state. I'm just wondering how much, if any, of UCAN one can take and not be knocked out of that state.
So the two things that can take you out of ketosis are raising your insulin, and that's why even protein, because protein has an insulin response. You can eat 50 grams of protein, you can knock yourself out of ketosis. Or replenishing the carbohydrates in your liver glycogen. So we've had people send us, once they're in ketosis, they've stayed in ketosis. There was a personal trainer out in Houston who put all his clients on a low-carb ketogenic diet, and he kept up 2.5 level of the ketone beta-hydroxybutyrate in the bloodstream. Are you in ketosis right now?
Yes.
What's your ketone level?
2.23 is the last one I checked.
So, you could start utilizing UCAN before your workout to see, what happens. We don't have any medical claims for ketogenic diets yet, so you'll have to experiment. But I'll start off, what type of, are you a runner, triathlete, CrossFitter, workout?
Triathlete.
So I would try it out and measure your ketone level and see what happens. I can always, Ron will give my email in the chat to discuss further and see, to learn more a little about the diet and see how you're surrounding UCAN. But you'd probably just do a scoop of UCAN before your workouts. Most people in ketosis need less UCAN over time because you're so efficient at burning fat. You might need it only every 90 minutes during long course triathlon or training. And then you can recover with either just a protein and fat shake, or you could also add some UCAN afterward to replenish glycogen depending on the intensity of the training.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thanks for the question, Rob. I'm going to post Seth's email in the chat right now. It's UCANRD, like registered dietitian, UCANRD@ucanco.com. So, Rob, feel free to reach out to Seth. Anybody else that has a specific question for our dietitian, Seth, you guys can feel free to connect with him that way as well. Seth, just as a follow-up from Matt, who we spoke to a minute ago, and I thought this was a good question. Matt says we're wired to think of maintaining 300 to 400 calories per hour while training, and then he's talking again about the distance athletes. How do we calibrate that with UCAN? Is there a guidance?
So I think, again, we have to remember that UCAN allows your body to burn more fat as energy and spare your glycogen. It also is a more efficient calorie source. So there's always the argument, and I understand we're wired for it, but I don't think, a lot of triathlete nutritionists will argue that, you can't even absorb 400 calories of a liquid, of nutrition per hour, especially at the intensity you're training at. So I would say I would start off at 100 to 150 calories per hour with UCAN. And if you're someone who's always used to 400 calories per hour and you've been doing that for a while, you should wean yourself over time. You could do, in terms of weaning yourself off, it's just a behavioral method, but you could do 100 calories of UCAN and 100 calories of the carb you're having, and wean yourself down, or do a higher dose of UCAN, maybe a scoop and a half to, 2 scoops, but you probably don't even need that. You can just go a scoop and a half per hour, and wean yourself off of it, because you should be able to survive on 100, 150 calories of UCAN per hour. You could always add a UCAN bar to help with added fat calories and protein calories during your exercise as well.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for the follow-up. I think it's a good question with so many triathletes thinking in terms of calories. Seth, we have a lot of questions here on using UCAN kind of as a daily diet and using it for weight management. What are some tips that you could give to folks who want to implement UCAN into their daily diet as a healthy carbohydrate, to help manage weight?
Well, I think the first thing is that if you start your day with a poor carbohydrate source, you think about the croissant, the bowl of cereal, the bagel, these classic foods, you're going to end up with blood sugar fluctuations throughout the day. So I definitely think that if you're laid out the door, remember, UCAN is the carbohydrate portion of a shake or of your breakfast. So we got folks that they might have a few scrambled eggs for breakfast, but they'll have a scoop of tropical orange UCAN on the side instead of the orange juice they used to have. I know that there are some folks making UCAN into their own kind of UCAN cereal, if I could even call it that, where they'll take a scoop of our plain UCAN, some coconut oil, some unsweetened almond milk. They'll cut up some almonds or some walnuts in there. If they are a fan of protein powder, they'll add some protein powder in there, and they'll make almost like a sludge. I mean, I even know some dietitians that add some avocado in there for the healthy fats. Again, it's just getting the body away from those cereals and other processed foods. You can always make UCAN into a shake. Straight up 2 scoops of vanilla cream protein, blend it with ice and water. I mean, that's been great for me. So you can do that. So starting your day with steady blood sugar is so key. I'd say if we're going to talk about multiple ways to use it, but if the goal is really maintaining blood sugar from like a protocol standpoint, UCAN in the morning and then at 2 or 3 p.m. is ideal, because then you're balancing your blood sugar the entire day. If you don't have time for that mid-morning snack, UCAN will take you through if you have it in the morning, because it'll keep you steady. So at 11 a.m. you're not feeling that low blood sugar feeling. You can wait till lunch. Some folks who are great with breakfast, have an omelet, don't have processed carbs. You could have UCAN mid-morning to last you, so as you approach lunch, your blood sugar is steady. I'd have to say that, again, going back to that researcher at Yale, Kathy Eckel, said about lunch being evil. If you're someone that has trouble at lunch, again, you could have a UCAN meal replacement shake, 2 scoops of UCAN, the protein enhanced. You could always add some extra healthy fats to it, like peanut butter, and blend the shake in the morning, keep it in the fridge, and have it for lunch. So that's really how, throughout the day, you think about UCAN. I mean, I'll tell you, I've been taking at around 4 or 5 o'clock just for myself. I've been having a scoop of our plain UCAN, 2 tablespoons of actual real just raw cacao powder, a little bit of whipping cream, and just adding, some organic cream, and adding some around 6 to 8 ounces of cold water. It's amazing. The raw cacao powder masks the starch completely. The little bit of cream also helps with the taste. So you can do that. I have that as a shake, and till 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night when working late, it works great. I was traveling in Iowa the other week, and I just had a cup of Greek yogurt. I took a scoop of our tropical orange UCAN. I had a packet. Actually had a packet with me, and the Greek yogurt, along with the taste of the tropical orange was just a great breakfast. I had a 2 hour drive from Iowa to Nebraska, and it just really sustained me.
And Seth, it's amazing. You mentioned kind of looking at troubled times when you have those carbohydrate and sugar cravings and the impact of UCAN. I mean, we're at the Fairfield Half Marathon yesterday, as the nutrition on the course, and then we're at the race and had a tent set up and everything like that. And they're serving, as a lot of these races do, serving pizza for all the runners when it's done. I'm standing there and staring at the pizza right across from me, and it's 10 a.m. I'm like, you know what? I've been standing here. Do I really need to go eat a slice of pizza at 10 o'clock in the morning? Just slammed a scoop of the tropical orange UCAN, and it truly did within about 15 or 20 minutes. Really, just by controlling my blood sugar, really took away because my stomach wasn't grumbling. I'd had a bit of a breakfast on my way over, but it was really that kind of that low blood sugar feeling of just craving the carbohydrate. Just a quick another example. My mom's a teacher, as we talk about using UCAN, for people with very busy schedules and busy lives. Has very little time during the day to break for meals and break for lunch, and so many of the convenient options that folks have when they're on the road, or vending machines. I mean, they're really things that are fast acting and things that are going to throw your blood sugar haywire. She really has UCAN at 11:30 in the day as part of her lunch, and finds that for that second half of the school day, when she has four classes stacked back to back to back to back, she's really not, tempted to go into the break room and pick up whatever the sweet of the day is, or go to the vending machine. It's really that steady blood sugar that, when you're so busy, is eliminating that feeling and that need to reach for something quick and convenient. So we come back to this idea of steady blood sugar time and time again, but it's really so powerful in so many different ways. It's pretty amazing. Let's see if we can bring John on the line. John had a question pertaining to UCAN for a marathon. John, are you there with us?
Hello.
Hey, John, thanks a lot for joining us. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm basically running my diet is no sugar, no grain. So I'm pretty well fat adapted. I can run daily 20K runs without taking any. I don't have a breakfast or anything, and I don't have any bonk or any sugar issues. But when I'm in the marathon, I take 2 packages of UCAN before about 40 minutes before the marathon, and then when I get around the 20K mark, I feel like and I'm running about 3-hour marathons, so I feel like I need something, and I haven't been able to find an efficient way to carry UCAN. Some kind of. I've actually just ordered a kind of small flask, a 5-ounce flask. I'm hoping that'll be the solution, but I didn't know what other people are doing, because if I could get one more package in around the 20K mark, then I will have no trouble finishing the marathon on UCAN. And what I've been doing now is leaning on gels, taking a couple of gels later in the race, but I just want to get completely off the gels.
Seth, also thanks a lot, John. Appreciate that. That's great feedback, and it's pretty amazing that kind of the both with your diet and the impact of that slow release of UCAN. How long you're able to get out of it. So this was another question I wanted to bring you on because this was a question that multiple people, in addition to you, also had for us. So we see people doing kind of a few different things. So we talked about this at the beginning, but the amount of water you mix UCAN with has no impact, no bearing on how the product works. One of the things we actually kind of bury this, and we forget to talk about this sometimes, is how gentle the SuperStarch is on the stomach. With a lot of the maltodextrin or the sugar-based products, they actually tell you need to drink a certain amount of water along with it, to help digestion, because it's going to really just sit in your stomach and cause those GI issues. With UCAN, it's really going to get out of your stomach, really gentle on your stomach, get out of your stomach quickly, independent of how much water you mix it with. So UCAN is really, water is really just a delivery mechanism for the SuperStarch, not needed to aid in digestion. So if you run with a little flask, some of the 4-ounce flask, we have a lot of people that are actually, shaking up UCAN, in a shaker bottle, or blending it with just 2 or 3 ounces of water prior to the race, transferring it over into as small of a flask as possible, and really just sucking it down as a UCAN gel. Now I advise you to to premix it in a bottle that's more convenient, because for some folks they just find with the texture. I saw a few people comment on this prior to this session, that when they try to mix UCAN into a paste, sometimes the texture is a little bit tough for them. So it will work a lot better for you if you try to blend it in a blender, the night before or the day before. You can mix UCAN up to 48 hours in advance. So if you blend it or put it in a shaker bottle with less water, and then try to transfer it into some small, convenient container, that could work well. Now, even if you don't want to carry a flask, I've seen people do, kind of, they even call it UCAN cigars. They put it in a little Ziploc baggie, you roll it up, and then just bite the top off and squeeze it in. So again, they're concentrating UCAN, and they're squeezing it into their mouth through a little Ziploc baggie. There's another thing that I'm going to post in the chat right now. It's called Zipsicle. There's a website, zipsicle.com, that sells these things. Or excuse me, I actually need to add an S on the end of that. It's zipsickles.com. If any of you remember those flavor ice pops that many of us had as kids, it's kind of that long plastic, disposable tube-like bag. That's also something I've seen a lot of people have success, making a UCAN paste, transferring it over into that bag, and then squeezing it out of their mouth into that bag. So, John, I hope some of those suggestions might help you. I don't know if you've tried any of those things, but that's really kind of the feedback we're hearing from other folks is concentrating it with less water, putting it into some type of small container, whether it's a 4-ounce flask, a fuel belt bottle if you run with a fuel belt, or their own homemade contraption, Ziploc baggie, or one of these Zipsicles type plastic bags.
Okay. Just some feedback for anybody that's shaking this, wants to blend this stuff. When I'm doing anything over like the ultra stuff, I use these blender bottles. It's kind of a patented bottle, has a little ball in there. If anybody's trying to mix this stuff, I've been successful in getting 2 packages into 150 mils of liquid and making a kind of syrupy kind of consistency, and then I put it into a soft flask, the Solomon soft flask, and I carry that, and that works really well for the ultra stuff. And I've ordered an ultimate direction. I think it's a 4 or 5 ounce flask. I'm hoping that'll be a good solution, because that'll be small and light enough to carry.
Absolutely. That's great, John. We appreciate the feedback, and thanks a lot. Glad you're having success with the product. Thanks for coming on to ask your question and share how you've been using it as well. Much appreciated.
Great. Thank you.
Seth, talking about what John was talking about, though, this comes back to a point you were making, where so many people, and actually looking at the clock as I see it's 8 o'clock, we'll stick around for definitely answer a few more questions. But I did want to make sure that as a thank you for those of you that have joined us tonight, we are extending a special discount to anybody that's joined us tonight on this UCAN talk show. So I wanted to put it out there right now. You can use the code UCANLEARN at our online store and save 15% through the end of the week. I'm posting that in our chat right now. You will get it, in an email and a follow-up email. Again, the code is UCANLEARN for 15% off at generationucan.com/store. Really appreciate you guys hanging out with us on a Monday night and taking the time to listen, taking the time to send in your questions. It's fantastic. So we do want to extend this to you. But Seth, back to what I was talking about, as John was talking about trying to figure out how to use it, UCAN on race day and how to carry it. Really want to highlight the importance of training with UCAN. For John particularly, he's trying to do the no sugar, no grain, stay away from the sugar, but he did mention using a couple gels at the end of the race. And that's not really the end of the world as long as you're not relying on gels as your primary source of fuel and training, right?
Right. I think that the main thing is that, there's all different, like I said, we're dealing, there's been lots of different ways to think about nutrition, think about what food you're eating. Some runners do fasted runs, or people work out in the fasted state to burn more fat. They achieve a state of fat adaptation where their brain is working off ketones. But I think the main thing that we all have to kind of understand, if you do a fasted workout, or you're trying to fuel with less, train low, race high type approach, is that when you exercise, your body's always trying to figure out a way to get sugar back into your bloodstream. So you will break down stored protein. You'll break down, some of the building blocks of your muscle. And you'll also break down fat, obviously, but it's not an ideal situation. UCAN gives you a direct source of fuel out of your intestine into your bloodstream at a direct rate, rather than working the back end where your muscle cells break down protein, have to send it to your liver. Your liver breaks the protein apart back into glucose, sends it back into your bloodstream, not at an ideal rate. So I think, the whole thing is that, again, for those folks working out for less than an hour, again, you don't need extra fuel. You have to keep your blood sugar steady, and the ideal way is really with a carbohydrate that'll break down steadily over time, keeping your brain sustained. I think to even take it a step further, Varn, your brain and your muscles, they compete for the same fuel inside your bloodstream, which is limited. And during a workout, your muscle cells are selfish. They suck up all the glucose, all the energy for your legs to use it when you're running or you're squatting or you're swimming, or your body to use it. And your brain, it's left with nothing. And that's why people get gym brain after a workout, or they feel the need to replenish so quickly, or they run right into the fridge after an hour run to grab a bowl of cereal, things like that. So having UCAN before you keep your blood sugar steady. And the first thing someone normally feels with UCAN, they just don't feel hungry after the workout, because usually that first workout, if you're just trying to understand UCAN, I think the main thing is that you won't feel hungry after the workout, and then you'll start to notice, I felt much better. You'll notice the performance benefits. You'll notice you're recovering quicker. You notice the health benefits over time.
And one of the things that we hear from a lot of marathoners, and we bring it back to the folks with body composition goals who might be training for an endurance event. I was shocked when I first entered this this endurance world, and we're at expos, and people are coming up to me saying, I gained 5 to 7 pounds on when I trained for my last marathon, and to me that was just so counterintuitive when I heard that. And then you look at all the sugar people are consuming to get through their workouts and get through their training, and you kind of you're taken aback. 400 calories, empty calories of just sugar to get through a 90-minute or 2-hour run sometimes, or even 200 calories of something like an energy bar or a gel before a shorter run. It's so counterproductive to the training, right? You've told me this time and time again, but when you exercise, what your body's trying to do is burn fat, and so many of the fuel sources out there are really working against you. They're not working with you. With UCAN, we're really a training tool, and that's the most important way to think of it, rather than a race day fuel. We're a training tool that's allowing your body to do what it wants to do during exercise, which is that's the real power of UCAN in training. If you have a body composition goal, this is a fuel that's going to get you there in your training. And then if on race day, so if you're using UCAN as your primary fuel source in training, and then on race day from a convenient, because whatever it may be from a convenience standpoint, or you feel like towards the end of the race, you want a little bit of the sugars, it's not the end of the world as long as you've been laying the groundwork in your training, because UCAN's really something that's going to, from a fitness standpoint, it's really going to help you get more fit. And Seth, I should jump to you at this point. Take us back to 9th grade biology for a minute. What is your body trying to do when you train, and how can UCAN aid you in that?
Yeah, everybody remembers the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, and the whole point of training is your mitochondria gets larger, and you get more mitochondria. And there's also, and what happens around the mitochondria is that there's more fat-burning enzymes that are upregulated, meaning that they're more active. So all the adaptations that exercise gives you is to burn more fat during the workout, because that means that you're burning less glycogen and you can last longer. That's what endurance is. The way you go from running 30 minutes to being able to run 60 minutes, it's that ability to burn more fat and spare your glycogen. Even one of the adaptations to endurance especially is you store more fat inside your muscle cell, so your cell can directly grab the fat even quicker. It's called intramuscular triglyceride. So you can break down fat even quicker than just having to go to your body fats. Every adaptation is there for you, and if you take in sugars or you have too many carbs, you don't take advantage of that full adaptation. And as Bob Siebehar, one of the people that's our triathlon nutritionist, the dietitian for the USOC, the Olympic team in Beijing in 2008, he said you don't need a spike in blood sugar to get energy. As long as you can maintain your blood sugar, you can maintain peak performance. And those were some of the words that launched us into sports nutrition.
Seth, sorry, Suzanne, Freddie, and Rob. I see all three of your questions. I want to, Seth, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to take some quick hit questions from these folks and see if we can't bring all three of them on. So let's see if we can. Well, I guess Suzanne had to leave us, but it's still a good question. We had a lot of people asking, should they also eat breakfast in addition to UCAN, before they work out, whether it's a longer workout? How should they kind of in their mind think about, breakfast and UCAN in conjunction with each other?
So again, there are some folks that are doing, a vanilla cream packet of UCAN because the added protein gives that more of a complete meal and curbs hunger in the stomach. They're doing a packet of that and maybe a UCAN snack bar now, and that's becoming their breakfast, especially if they're on the road. They can't get some eggs or some, typical food in their bodies. But I think it comes down to if you have that, UCAN vanilla cream packet and UCAN snack bar, that's an ideal combination, even for breakfast during the day. You've got, the double dose of UCAN from the vanilla cream packet and the snack bar. You've got the added healthy fats, coconut oil, and protein. And then before your race, you could start having UCAN 30 minutes before in the liquid form, just the tropical orange version.
So with the breakfast aspect of UCAN, right? I think it's kind of so many times with endurance athletes, they've thought of that morning breakfast as being rich in carbohydrates, a bagel with whatever it may, a bagel and a banana, or I've heard so many people say, oh, I had a bagel and I had a banana with honey. It's carbs, carbs, and more carbs. So from a nutrient standpoint, almost, and Seth, correct me if I'm wrong, the breakfast can be thought of as more a means for satiety rather than a means for energy. So UCAN is the energy, the SuperStarch is what's giving you the energy. So whatever you're eating in conjunction with UCAN should be more protein and fat based because the purpose of that is more for satiety.
Right. You want to make sure you've got enough glycogen in your muscle cell, and that doesn't come from the meal you have, 2 hours before the race. That comes from eating properly, other times of the day and the night before and the day before. So you could exactly. So you can eat your typical breakfast. I'm not sure what she has, but you probably want to pair it, not just have it be carb dominant with a bagel, maybe add an egg to it at least to balance it out. You could always do the UCAN vanilla cream packet and the vanilla cream snack bar. I mean, that is an ideal combination for brain energy, satiety, keeping you steady, allowing you to achieve peak performance. I mean, that's what our carb is all about. We're a food. We're not a supplement. So if you're going to have some eggs, have some UCAN with it. And then, I think that would work well before a race, food or just, the straight up UCAN like we're talking about.
And Seth, you must have read my mind because I'm going to get Freddie on here if he's with us still. And what you just said, UCAN is a food, not a supplement, pertains exactly to what he was asking. Freddie, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
How you doing, Freddie? Go ahead.
Doing excellent. So the question is, on a daily basis, and then particularly for like Ironman racing, can you take too much UCAN? You've got all these great suggestions for taking it at breakfast and during the day and as a snack at night. Is there a limit where too much is too much?
Right. So the way to think about UCAN is like an oatmeal or really steak and food in general. Because it's a slower release. You want to, when you first start taking, you want to think about it more like a dietary fiber. In that you don't want to have like 3 scoops the first day because you want to give your body time to get used to it and adjust to it digestively. So I would say that you don't need, we're talking about it in so many different times, but, on a daily basis outside of like the event day of Ironman, you don't really need more than 3 scoops in a day. And most people, they get amazing energy with 1 scoop, at mid-afternoon. So it all depends on the person, but I'd say between 1 and 3 scoops is what folks have. I mean, I know some people that have energy issues. They're getting off the caffeine. They're trying to get rid of their Red Bull issue. They're having, UCAN, 3 times a day, 8 a.m., 12 p.m., and 6 p.m. because they're trying to re-regulate their body and they're after it's been so reliant on, the Red Bull. But again, I would think about it more like an oatmeal or in terms of safety and taking too much than I would a supplement.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thanks, Freddie. Thanks for the question. And I think one of the big things. Sorry, Seth. I was answering a few questions here in the chat. I don't know if you said this already as well. But in giving all these suggestions, we're not necessarily saying use UCAN at all these times every day, but it's more like, depending on your day, depending on your week, depending on the needs of the day and your schedule that day, here are the variety of ways that you can think about using UCAN throughout the week. So one day it may be, a pre-workout. One day it may be, this is what I'm going to have for breakfast. The next day it might be, hey, I have a really busy day. This is what I'm going to have at 3 p.m. But yeah, I would say, I guess beyond, beyond perhaps that human boredom that comes in with eating the same thing from a safety standpoint, because of what you just said, Seth, because it's not a food, it's not a supplement, it is a food. It's really there's really no harm in taking it multiple times a day. Let's end perhaps with Rob and see if he'll take us out with his question. Rob, are you there with us?
Yeah, sure am.
Great, Rob. You had something you mentioned about the UCAN bar, so I just wanted to have you. We hadn't talked about that too much yet, but go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just saying that I kind of had to experiment with when to eat the bars so that I can be hungry for dinner. I was having them usually as a snack mid-afternoon, between the lunch and 3 o'clock hour or whatever, whenever lunch is over. And I really had to kind of push that earlier in the day because having it at that time I was not really hungry for dinner. So, but it really was I was kind of surprised at how small they were, but then at the same time, I was really taken aback at just how efficient I felt after eating one or two of those, and I was really surprised with it, and it's really kind of pushed me forward in my workouts too. So I've really been happy with the bars.
That's fantastic, Rob. Thanks so much for sharing that. And Seth, again, I think why I wanted to bring Rob, it was interesting what he said. Looking at the bar, 190 calories, it might seem small, but the satiety effect he described. Again, we've been talking about this time and time again throughout this webinar, but just again, why should people perhaps consider X amount of calories of UCAN different than X amount of calories as something that's more fast acting?
By the way, before I even get to that, the bar this is the first bar that curbs hunger in the brain and the stomach. Most bars only contain protein and fiber, only curbing hunger in the stomach for a short period of time. The added 10 grams of SuperStarch, our unique carbohydrate, that's what keeps you steady. That's what curbs hunger in the brain, which is really what you need. We overeat too much because of hunger in the brain. And that really goes to your point, Varn, about comparing UCAN versus fast-acting carbs and calories. The fact is that on a calorie per calorie basis, 100 calories of UCAN, because of how efficient it is, because of the changes it does in how you partition nutrients in your body, allowing for fat utilization, glycogen sparing, keeping you at a steady rate, and the adaptations that occurred in your training. 100 calories of UCAN replaces 300 calories of other carbohydrate, because it's excess. It's too fast acting. Your body doesn't need those 300 calories at once. You have to, your body wants to use the stored fuel in your body, your body fat. That's why it adapts to that. And that's why people try to keep sugar low now, because they want to use more fat as energy. And we have a carb that keeps you steady, gives you energy, and allows you to burn fat as energy.
With that, really, really appreciate everybody's questions today. It was fantastic. A lot of great questions. Apologize if we couldn't get to everybody, but you do have Seth's contact. You have my contact through getting invited to this webinar. So certainly keep the conversation going. If your specific question didn't get answered, please don't hesitate to reach out to either of us. You will be getting a recording of this full webinar in case there's anything you want to review. A little bit later tonight. We'll include this slide deck as well. A couple folks had commented that they wanted a copy of the slide deck, so there will be a link to access the slide deck as well. Glad that was helpful. And one more thing I wanted to mention, we had a lot of triathletes, it seems like, on this webinar. We're actually holding a great webinar tomorrow at 12 p.m. Short turnaround for this guy. Tomorrow at 12 p.m. with Olympic dietitian Bob Siebehar, who's done extensive work on metabolic efficiency training and fat utilization for triathlon. Bob's also, worked extensively with UCAN personally for himself and with nearly every athlete he coaches, whether they're a high performance athlete or an age grouper looking to improve body composition. So if you are interested in signing up for that webinar, just check out our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/GenUCAN. It's going to be the second post you see on our timeline. You can register for free right there. Even if you can't join us, I know it's in the middle of the workday for some. It is something that as long as you register, you'll be able to access it after the fact. And so a lot of you folks, if you are an endurance athlete and you are interested in this concept of eliminating all the sugars and getting your body to be more efficient, getting your body to be better at burning fat, Bob's a brilliant guy and is going to have a lot of fantastic information to share with you. With that, I just want to sign off. Thank you all again. Seth, I always like to give you the last word. Anything else that you want people to leave this session with remembering?
I think it just comes down to the fact that UCAN was created for a life-threatening disease. And so because it helped save someone's life, it's really very effective for normal folks like us to act in our bodies the way we want a carbohydrate to act. I mean, you want little bits over time, keeping you steady instead of calories all at once in your body, overloading you, causing highs and lows in energy. You want to keep that sustained feeling, that steady feeling, that calmness throughout the day, and that can also support your exercise efforts. So that's really, it's the way you'd want a carbohydrate to act in your body, and that's why it was created. So that's it.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, everybody. Have a wonderful night. Hope you got some new ideas on how to use UCAN, and we are here for you. We'll be doing this again. Hope you can join us next time. Good night, everybody.